it's a packed agenda. Yeah. So welcome to the Cloudeight second summit, the virtual summit, and to my session here. First of all, let's thank to all the sponsors. Again, sorry, which make this happen actually. Why is it now? Oh, I deleted. Okay, my name is Ingo Gegenwart. I'm working for SAP, just that you know where I'm coming from. So I'm coming actually from Exchange, but with Exchange Online and Azure AD, now we also move to cloud, to Azure. And now it's not only Exchange Online anymore. Now it's also I'm also part of one of the global admin, or I'm the global admin here, and we have to deal every day with applications in our company, which trying to access Exchange data or objects actually, and either in Flow, whatever, in Automate, Power Logics, there, whatever. And yeah, just want to give you some heads up here and some experience and best practice. So what are we going to cover? Some tenant-wide configuration, actually. What is illicit consent and configuration, end user, MCAS stuff, service principal application, what is the difference? And then some difference also for the Exchange protocol, like EWS or REST and client access rule stuff. Access token as well, and then I will do also some demo in between, just to show you really what you're looking for securing and how it an access token looks like and the difference here. All right. So what is illicit consent? What does it really mean here? This is here the extract there from Microsoft actually, but think about today we are living in a cloud world, and we are granting consent to third-party applications to act on behalf of us actually. So that means they can access then data, have certain permission like calendar read write or mail read write or files in SharePoint online, and of course attacker try to get a consent for their applications from you. So that means that you sign in, that you click there, you grant consent to that application, and from that point on you would have or they would have access to your files, whatever. Just give you a few, or just example here how something looks like. I mean, everybody should be aware of how it looks like, but just give you an idea. Here I'm signing in, or I got an URL, and there is an app which looks legit actually. It looks like OneDrive, and it also has the sign, but it could be in this case here. It's only read my profile, and if you grant consent, you would grant consent. But is this really the OneDrive from Microsoft? Actually, not. Just to give you here an idea how it looks like. I just created an application, and this could be also then an application for anything else with higher permission, and it's a multi-tenant actually application, and this is how user or attacker can gain access to whatever you want. If I add here some more permission, I could add here delegate permission again, and then like for mail, that means mail, I could say get read and write or access to your to the whole mail. With this, they would have access to your mailbox and can extract data. And this is actually the culprit here and the risk actually. And as you have seen, there is nothing which, it looks legit for you, and maybe you know this OneDrive, it's okay, I heard about it, yeah, accept, and then that's it, and you're done. And this is something you really want to, protect your end users and also your data, your company actually for data leakage. So how could this be achieved actually? So there are several ways, and could be very strict, but it really depends on the culture of the company and whatever you want and how you have to align it there. Of course, you can disable the ability for granting consent at all. So that means, there is no enterprise application or application there that a user can consent to. So that means every application you want to use in your tenant or you want to allow that your user can use, you have to go there and grant admin consent, and only an admin there can add this application to your tenant. It's pretty strict. Yeah. Then you have also the ability to that group owners grant consent for all the members for this group. So that means he grant consent, and no one of the group members there has to grant consent to this app also. So you don't really know. And then think about maybe there is a malicious application, and an group owner just grant consent, and this was maybe the group for the whole company, and or the high amount of users there, and yeah, the application would have access to all of those. So there is also the possibility, this is pretty new, to allow grant consent the end users only for they have to have a verified publisher and predefined permissions. And also that only a specific group maybe grant consent for their groups they own. How would does this look like? So this is a new setting which was just announced a few weeks ago. There is the setting. Actually, let's go to the live setting here, so you can see that. When you go to enterprise application in your tenant, and then when you go to consent and permission, this is the part where you can just enable. That's by default, so everybody can allow consent to an app. So what you can do is here, you can click here on this, and it needs to be verified. What does that mean? Verified. So verified means there is an application owner which has also a partner account as Microsoft. So it is known to Microsoft. So he has proven that this is an application owner who is known to Microsoft and is not malicious, whatever. On top of that, you have to I have to save it first, and then you have to grant here. You can add multiple ones, those are the predefined permissions. So that means every user who has or every verified publisher can be used. The combination verified publisher plus some of these permission a user can grant consent to. If there is like here we have email profile, whatever, there is no mail read, there is no calendar read, write, whatever. If the application is verified but on calendar read write, this won't work. So there would be then upcoming there that admin consent is needed. Yeah. Just let me check there again if this is now okay. Correct here. So this is actually, it's a good idea. Just to have a look at it here, how something looks like. Just give you an example. How can you verify that a publisher, or that there is a verified publisher? Look at the screen. So you have there two applications. On the left hand, there is outreach. There is no information. There is no. I tend to say there is no blue tiki. The sign what you see on the right hand. There is sub SE, and there is also the check mark here, the blue check mark, and this is something. It's a verified publisher, and as you can see, even maintain access to data that you have given access to, even this wouldn't work here because this is not in the default list. So you can assign to it. You can need to assign this or allow this there. The problem here is, and actually we run this into this there now since a few weeks. So we are looking into that. There are a lot of apps. You won't believe even large vendors. They have not verified they are not verified publisher actually. They have not verified that they are, which they're supposed to be. You have to be very careful and maybe do an inventory before you do so. Otherwise, you might be facing a few tickets and unhappy end users actually. But in the end, it's a good idea, but needs some fine tuning definitely and some research before. What you can do also here, between, I'm just checking here, if you have any questions, so don't hesitate and just write here. No, not as of today, okay. You can also define or block your tenant actually, or secure your tenant by disable the ability of registration the applications. I know it's not really convenient for the end users, but you should really have a workflow in place here. The reason for that is, if you don't do that and you don't have a workflow, everybody will register an application and is doing whatever, and then you will have amount of application and you don't even know what they're doing, and everybody can they can configure the permission itself, but still the users needs to have needs to grant consent, and luckily admin consent there is still needed there even for some delegate permission. But it's just think of the life cycle and stay on top of all the application actually here. Conditional access. There's also when you create a new application and you want to set up a new conditional access rule for those applications. Whenever you look for that, make sure they have the tag Windows integrated app. There is a tag for applications. You need to have that there. And conditional access policies, that this is still ongoing and something most of the people are not aware of. They work only for delegated permission. If you have an application with application permission, so they won't be able or you won't be able to cover this in a conditional access. Microsoft is working on this. When it comes to the picker there, not sure if you already have seen this before or doing so. Sometimes they're not, or the first list, what you see at the cloud for the selection here, there is only a subset of applications, and the best guess actually anyways there is that you enter that you use the app ID for defining the application, the conditional access rule here, and find them. On top of this, is also what you can also do in terms of what you also should do is when you have the ability and you have the license, because this is definitely need some licensing here, is MCAS. And if you're not doing any rules, whatever, at least it makes sense that you enable, let's say, that you enable auditing. It's pretty easy actually. Once you have that, let me share. There's also you can do. I have to sign in again. In MCAS, you can just assign or look for the rules. So you would get at least a logging, and then you can review whatever you want to do. It's quite easy. You can go to control, to the policies, and then there are a lot of predefined policies, and then there's also risky apps. You can do here anomaly detection and also OAuth app policies. And when you look at that, there are already a lot of policies are there. Just turn them on and get your locking, so you get an overview because otherwise it's pretty hard to see, you know, what apps are there, what are in your tenant, what's going on, how often, from where they are accessing it. Yeah, you have the sign-in policy, logs, but still, MCAS, if you have the ability, use MCAS, and then you could even build in some rules on it. So you could even allow certain applications from certain publisher, and that's also something here. And you can say, you know, an application with only calendar read, yeah, it's okay, whatever, but as soon as it's calendar read write, or something with write permission, then you can block it. Yeah, you are pretty flexible with this, yeah, but don't keep it, you know, don't make it too complex, you know, keep it somehow simple. At least activate those rules, the alerts, and monitor those alerts. It's quite interesting because if you do so, also something like the verified publisher, this is something which definitely helps you to prevent zero apps. You know, there are attackers which are creating a multi-tenant app by midnight, whatever, and then spread around the globe, and it's not yet whatever really malicious detected, and Microsoft is doing there also a great job. This will prevent those, let's say, zero-day application attacks. So when it comes to application settings, that's also something that's also best practice actually. Configure the domain for the application that you are under control. So the end users can also verify. MCAS policy can be set, as mentioned before, on domain level. And this is done pretty easy here also when you go there into, that's also how you do verify a publisher by yourself in your own tenant, if you do so. Let me go back there. Just go over to one of the applications. Come on, let's go like for the OneDrive here. When you go to branding, then you can select here and update the domain. And then here in this demo tenant, I don't have another domain, but for instance, for SAP, whatever, yeah, there are a bunch of domains, and then you can pick the domains which are registered in your tenant. And so this is one thing which also helps then also building rules there in MCAS, for instance. And then if you go with the verified publisher, you can also add here, once you have this switched, you know, there will be here something unlocked, and then you can add your partner ID. And this then takes maybe just 2 or 3 seconds. It will verify that the partner ID is still there. And yeah, it is then also verified publisher actually. One thing before I come to the service principal versus an application is when you enable verified publisher, this feature, this this will definitely kick in before MCAS will see it. So that means if you turn this on, users will get the need admin approval, and even MCAS, even the request is blocked before it comes to MCAS. There are, when you look at Azure AD, there are something like several bouncers or gatekeepers. Yeah, and the first one, this is what this is really at the edge. Yeah, and this is the one which is then looking for the verified publisher. If you turn it on, and this would be already then there restricted here. If you hit this, or if you make it, you know, from this gatekeeper, you get to the second one, and the second one, and then could be instance, and then you have to authenticate here and all the stuff again, and your permission will be evaluated there. So service and principal versus application. So what is the difference, and yeah, what's actually really the difference, and what does it make sense here, or to make some sense here out of it? A service principal represents actually a resource which can be only in your tenant, but it's most likely in multi-tenant. So what you can do there, you can configure, you can assign some other properties, but you can't configure permission. The permission, what you can configure there, you can also report there. But what you can do is you can assign users, you can restrict, you can enable, disable this application actually. Whereas when it comes to application, in the application you can configure actually, you can configure the permission, the claims actually you're asking for, like calendar read write, mail read write, send, whatever, the redirect URI, the authentication mechanism, what is there. This is all the stuff what you can configure on application. And when it comes to this is something actually what you can do in your own tenant. At the same time, when you create an application also in your tenant, also for your application, also a service principal will be created. Both are visible in your tenant. If it's a multi-tenant application, for instance, then you will see only the service principal, and only then when at least one of the users granted consent to this application. Coming also to delegated versus application permission. What is the difference actually? This is something, it's also from Microsoft here. Actually, on the bottom line is delegated permission is there's always a user involved. So you will find always a principal, user principal in the access token. So which is then, like a trustee, like an ACL entry on a folder, whatever. App permission, there is no user involved at all, and always needs admin consent, because there is no user available which could grant consent to this application. So, and then there are also effective permissions. So they're getting together. You have the user privileges there, and those are the effective permission actually. I mean, like whatever. Even if I grant consent from Exchange perspective, like I can read the calendar from my colleague. That's fine. I get the access token. Yeah, I mean it's like a pass. I can, like an ID. I can get there, but so that's me. It's Ingo. He has the permission to mail read or calendar read, right? Yeah. For the audience, yeah, in this case, then outlookoffice.com or microsoftgraph.com. Yeah, and I'm trying to access for my colleague's calendar, but my colleague's calendar hasn't the permission, specific deny, or has not added me to his calendar. So that means it's fine that I have the ID, but at the end, on application level, that means on Exchange level, there will be a block, because I'm authenticated there, but I'm not authorized there for accessing those data. So that means also user privileges, they need to be combined. Whereas if I would have an application permission, doesn't matter, because there is no user, and that's why it per se has access to the whole mailbox, to everyone mailbox, to all the mailboxes actually. There's also a list. I just write it up here. By the way, am I too fast? Is it okay? Any feedback currently? Okay, let's proceed there. So coming to Exchange protocols, and that's also something here. We have Exchange Web Services. That's a long existing protocol. There's a managed API. You can also use just SOAP requests itself, so you don't need the DLLs to be able to have it loaded. It's up to you. It has the full functionality and the full set for handling a mailbox. So it's also for the configuration. You can query the mailbox. You can do pretty much almost everything with it. Like Outlook, use it also for not only for calendar. It's also requested for different other stuff. And like Outlook for Mac, think about this. It's still on this and using EWS for accessing the mailbox. But now they're moving to a different protocol. But as of now, they're using also EWS. Actually, it's the main protocol for them. REST, it's also relative young protocol in terms of for Microsoft for accessing. I mean, REST exists is also long existing protocol itself, but not in this relation. So that means yeah, OData 4 and JSON format is used, and it's of course it is also optimized for accessing mails, calendar, and contacts. And yeah, the main difference also it supports only OAuth. Actually, there is no basic authentication, whatever. So that means you first have to get an access token, and then you can use in the REST protocol the access token. Exchange Web Services, still also it can use NTLM, it can use basic authentication. For bear in mind, basic authentication will fade away next year for Exchange Online. On-prem, it's still there, and you won't be able to turn it off. You can block it somehow, but even with 2019, I think they are still not there that you can completely turn off basic authentication. So yeah, REST has a limited functionality. It's not like EWS. You don't have all the abilities. It means like setting like delegates or stuff like that. It's just limited here. Endpoints also for Exchange Online when it comes to endpoints, and this will be really a point. I'm coming to this later on. It's so-called, it's the audience to resource from OAuth perspective. So we have two endpoints actually. We have Microsoft Graph and we have Exchange Online. There are different links, and those actually the names actually itself are called from OAuth perspective audience and resource. And you want to make sure that you have always the right access token. And in an access token, you can define only one audience. That means, if you require or acquire an access token for Graph and then try to access Exchange Online, this won't work. And I'll show you this later on as well. And also, when it comes then to the endpoints itself, to the protocols like EWS, IMAP, Exchange, ActiveSync, and REST, they have different capabilities. And there's again, there was just I just realized there in the last weeks there was also a change there. EWS also moved away and was renamed actually from the naming perspective, from the claim perspective here itself. And but this needs to be really take into consideration whenever your developer is starting developing your apps or building your apps. Quite important here. So, and that's now something also, okay, I mentioned this before, like, hey, I have an app registered, I have something built up, and then I can acquire an access token. So that means I can access a mailbox or right away, or just send as another user. No, this is not in, and also when you look at the documentation, that's my personal point of view, it's not really documented well. It's if you use application permission, okay. So there's no user involved, then anyways, there is no way. Admin granted consent, yeah, you can do whatever you want to do. But if it comes to delegated permission, there is always needs at least an Exchange. There is still also, let's say, the third gatekeeper there, which is Exchange, and then say, hey, I have in my ACL there is or permission settings there you are not listed or you don't have the permission to do that, this and that, whatever you just try to do. Yeah, so there is definitely a gap, and you need to as it comes to delegate permission, not only the access token, also in the resource wherever you are, you need to assign permission here. Here, the permission, those are something like for delegated access. You need also full access, send as, and folder level permission, etc. They still need on top of that, needs to be granted access, even like delegate access. Doesn't help that the delegate get an access token. It still needs permission to do so. That's the same application permission. Per se, application permission, there are you don't need to assign additional permission as I mentioned, and keep in mind, OAuth application permission are not the same like application impersonation permission for EWS. Application impersonation means it's really that you can, on behalf, that you impersonate the users. And this also, it's used to be handled, or it's still handled in Exchange itself. It doesn't have to do anything with OAuth. It doesn't have to do anything with Azure AD. Actually, it lives only in Exchange and needs to assign permission. And it makes sense to use it because when it comes to throttling, for instance, if you have an application which is whatever scanning mailboxes there and doing some reports and stuff like that, if you use a service account and use this and then delegated permission, so that means there's a service account involved, you pretty much run into the budgets, and you will get throttled, and the throughput will be very low. That's why application impersonation is most likely requested by third-party vendors, because then they do a fan out. It's like, they impersonate the users, and then the budget is always against all the users which are just running the request against. Yeah, so it's not only one account; it's then spread across then all of these. Definitely something also which is most likely forgotten here. It's the X anchor mailbox header, and this is not only for EWS, it's also for REST applications. And you won't believe how many vendors forget about this. And the reason, or I don't know, but why they're doing this, but the reason why this is so important is, first of all, it's performance. And then second of all, sometimes specific scenarios, they don't work if you don't use the X anchor mailbox header. The reason is the front end actually from Exchange, also evaluates the X anchor mailbox header, and based on this value, it routes you through the right server to the right server. And if you, for instance, also in a multi-tier environment, there is only one endpoint, but actually the mailbox can be whatever your service account or your mailbox is in Europe, and a delegate or a manager is a mailbox is in North America, and you want to access it. This can fail. Most likely, it will fail. Actually, not can. It will fail definitely if you don't set the X anchor mailbox header. If you set the X anchor mailbox header, yeah, you're authenticated as the user in Europe, but you want to access the mailbox in America, you would set the X anchor mailbox header to the manager's mailbox in America, and then the front end knows where to route the traffic to. Otherwise, you will get an error like whatever, this resource was not found with the GUID, or this user mailbox with this GUID was not found, because the double redirect won't work. Exchange impersonation is not an HTTP header, but it is a SOAP header, and this also needs to be added there. So when it comes to restricting application itself, yeah, you could use conditional access rules, but as mentioned, if Azure AD, you can do that in Azure AD, and if you use application permission, you won't be able to use conditional access, only in delegated scenario. So what really helps is then application access policy in Exchange Online. They needs to be defined in Exchange Online, but they support only a subset of permission. So that means, well, those are the main permission, everything with mail, contact, calendar. Yeah, those are supported. What is not supported is when you have something like Exchange Active Sync or EWS. Those are not supported by this policy as of today. Maybe there is something coming up. So then again, when you have some application and whatever there is, and we had this request, there is an HR app which is so important there, but for whatever reason, it should be used only for a subset of users. How can you achieve that? So there is a requirement. Yeah, the app is okay, but only you want to allow only a subset of users to use that. That's quite easy. That's something what I mentioned. Configure the service principal. That's the difference to the application. you can do the require assignment and assign the service principal to specific users. So that means when I go there into enterprise application and here, whatever, this application should be available only to specific users. What you can do is here, first of all, user assignment is required. So that means, assignment needs is required. You can set this, and then also what you can do here is also visible to users, yes or no. So that means even if users are browsing for applications, so they you might want to set it to no, because then it's not visible at all, and it's also not visible in myapps.microsoft.com, where every user can also revoke consent if they want to. This would be the first step, that you use this one, and then just discard this now for the moment there, and then you would also then here go in for users and groups, and here you would add the users. You can add a group or users you're looking for. You would add them to the here to this, select and assign it, and this would be one way, because then they would have access to the application and can use it. All others, even if they want, they won't be able to do so. There's one drawback. If you do so, you need to grant admin consent here to those permission. Why is this? Because you assign the user. They have no choice. And the application will only work if someone has a great, granted consent to. And from the way how Microsoft introduced this and how consent can be granted here, in this case, you need to grant admin consent, otherwise it won't work. You need to assign it and then grant admin consent. Okay, what you can also do is create an application policy. So that means this is more for the scenario, and hopefully I will come to that. Oh, it's late. There is the possibility that you can assign or create application access policy. So that means you have an application in your tenant and you granted application permission. So that means there is no user. Actually, it would mean this application can access all the mailboxes in your tenant. There is no restriction. With this application policy, you can restrict this to a subset of users. Could be a DL. There are a few restrictions, but it has to be a security enabled group. Security principal actually needs to be the object actually, and then you can assign the policy. So that means mailboxes, DLs. That's the scenario. With this, the application can definitely, again, as mentioned before, it would be able to acquire an access token. It get the token here, and it can get the authenticate. It has it, but authorization on Exchange level, Exchange Online level, would be there's also then the other gatekeeper. It will evaluate, hey, okay, this application, does it have access to, or is there an access policy, yes or no? And if so, what can it access the specific recipient, yes or no? And if not, then you will get an error back from Graph or from Exchange Online itself, and if you're allowed to the application there, then it's okay. Nothing, it will work. Just a short wrap up. What you just heard here about the illicit consent, the configuration for the end user, how they can consent to the application. We have a conditional access and MCAS, service principal application, and then also from Exchange Online, EWS and REST protocols. Do you have at the moment any questions so far? Do you want to see some demo with some code, how it just looks like? Feel free just to chat or unmute yourself. If not, okay. I'm not sure. So you want to see some demo? Michelle. Yeah. Okay, this just give it a try here. I can cancel this here. This before. So I have prepared some script or whatever, some demos here. Yeah. Let's grant consent to this application. First, have a look at the how it looks like. Yeah. A token and what I'm just talking about. Just run it again. Then I grant consent to this application. So this is a delegated, this is application, and this is now delegated here. I grant, and now I will grant consent. And if you look at the token itself, this is what I just talked about. And here, this is the raw data, and I converted it. And this is now here is the audience. So maybe you can see that it's better for you. And as you can see, we have the audience, and this token, access token now, it's valid for graph.microsoft. And you can see here there's all the information about my user, the ID of the user actually, and the scope. And this is also something which is really important here when you look at the token here. That means its scope is always in dedicated scenario. That's also the permission here is mail read write and user read. And here's also my unique my username. Now get a different app, different token for with the application permission. How it looks like here. So this is a different token, and as you can see here, there's the audience is different. It's for Outlook Office 365.com. That's, I call it automation app here. It's something, there is no user involved here. You won't see any user, right? And there is also no scope. In this case, when we're talking about application permission, and there's also this is the whatever, also some indicator here, it roles. We're talking about roles. And here the roles is also mail read write, even calendar read write, all, and also mail send. So that can send also on mail on behalf. Actually, this app can do almost everything with your mailbox, actually. That's something here. Now, what I mentioned before about that you have an access token, and you still need the permission from Exchange perspective. That's something here. I have here an access token. No, first check for the audience here. This access token is here with the audience Outlook Office 365.com. So if you're trying to access now a calendar, and using this token here, it will fail and you will get an error. See, I tried using the graph.com, but the token has in the audience here outlook.office.com and not graph. And that's why you get an error here, invalid authentication token. And you need to look into those errors actually. When I use the same or the correct endpoint actually, so that means I'm looking here, I'm sending the request to outlook.office 365. Let's do it like this. Here, that's actually now the endpoint, and now I retrieve all the data, all the calendar items. That's one thing in terms of the audience. So what else do I have here? There is also this is the audience. Let's have something for the permissions here just before we get off there. And this is something here. You will just, I try to access Lynn's mailbox with the token, but it won't work. The reason for that is I just don't have permission to that. When I look at the Lynn's mailbox, at first it has to create a new session. I will add this also now, the permission which are necessary for accessing the folder, the calendar. but you will see that it won't work. The reason for that is Microsoft Graph. Right here, I don't have permission to it, so I add myself as a reviewer. The reason Microsoft Graph is not working right away, be patient. What I usually see, this is the average, is actually 2 hours. There is a caching actually. So I should have access to the user and it's failing. If I use EWS, for instance, it will work. Of course, EWS, I'm looking now for Outlook.Office 365. I'm going directly and not, let's do it again. This is now, I'm doing a lookup and I'm looking, I'm contacting Outlook Office 365 directly, not using the graph, and it works right away. Between graph is still not working. REST protocol is not working. Yeah. So be patient. It's up to 2 hours. That's what I have seen before. What needs to be done or waited there before it really works. One last thing, the restricted app. I have the the application access policy. If you look at it, I just created one. And you can see the scope is Megan B, and I restrict this app actually to have access to Megan B's mailbox only. That's the only way, the only mailbox this app can access actually. So I get a token here. Token here is the app, and I have here full access as app. That means EWS. That's the one what I mentioned before. First of all, we have roles. We have full access as app. I can calendar read, mail send, calendar read all. I can do, should be able to do everything. But when I try to send a mail, to her, hold on. I now have to wrong the calendar up. Let's do it like this. Here's the calendar. That's the wrong. Impersonation works. When I do now the same, that means impersonation and EWS works. When I do the same with REST, it won't work. And Fiddler is my friend. I'm gonna show you again what it looks like and the error. Of course, this error just tells me it's forbidden. But when you look now at Fiddler, you will see OData error access denied. This is OData, this is disabled. This is the actual the error, and this is by design, which works when you have the application or when the application has an access policy assigned to and doesn't work. And now for Megan B, it will work. I get all the data back, and if this is also what I see here. I get the here. Let's see. I get the authorization. I get the X-Anchor mailbox header, what I said, and I get all the values back. That this is actually all the data here. The values, all the items actually here. Each item there is listed. And yeah, with this, actually, I'm done. So do you have any question? If not, whatever, I can just ask you. It's the feedback, always welcome. And if you have any question, I'm still later also in the hub. Yeah, don't hesitate and contact me. We will also upload the slides, and I think they will be made available to all of you guys. Thank you for your time and for attending. Okay, bye.